We talk a lot about the story that we tell others, your marketing. We talk a lot about the story that others tell about you, your branding. But neither of those matter if you don't understand and control the story that you tell yourself. Well, lucky for you, that's exactly what we're going to talk about today. Welcome to the Storytelling Lab, where we break down the art and science of storytelling. My name is Bennett. I'm your host, and I'm a filmmaker and an author on a quest to understand how we can tell better stories so that we can do better work and make the world a better place. Each episode, I host one of the world's best storytellers to help you understand how to leverage storytelling to increase your sales, deepen your connections, and serve your audiences better. What's up, storytellers? Welcome back to the Storytelling Lab podcast. This is episode 168, and today we're going to talk about exactly that, the story that you tell yourself. It is the absolute most important story that you will tell. However, it is the most overlooked, the most over-neglected story in our arsenal. There is a reason why in almost every conversation we have here on the Storytelling Lab, it comes back to that. It comes back to understanding what's going on in your mind, understanding your purpose, your vision, your why, your mission, all of these things. Writers, marketers, social media creators, filmmakers, anybody that I have on the show, it always comes back to understanding and being fully aligned with your story, your vision. We're going to talk about it today. This will be a short episode, but I think you're going to get a lot of value out of it because this is a topic that I don't see enough people talking about. And I absolutely love it because I have absolutely struggled with it my whole life and I continue to. So perhaps you do too. Now, the lens I want to look at this through is discussing and comparing and contrasting the differences between self-talk and what I have coined, or I believe I have coined, self-communication. All right, let's get into it. Self-talk. Self-talk is defined as the internal dialogue that people have with themselves, which can be conscious or subconscious or unconscious, and that can be positive or negative. But I want you to think about it. When you think of self-talk, what generally comes to mind? To me, the self-talk is that voice in your head that is indeed telling you a story, and usually that story is one that was created in your childhood when you were younger, either by influence of those around you, like your parents and culture and community and society, or completely fabricated and written by yourself, the child version of yourself. And many of us, if not most of us, go through our whole lives without, one, understanding that this story was written by a child, and then two, understanding how to dismantle that story so that it can be more aligned with who we are as our adult versions of ourselves. And just to be a little more specific, these are the narratives such as like, I can't do this because people like me don't do this, right? These are the types of stories that we tell ourselves, or I'll never be one of the greats, or someone from my community can't do that. These kinds of stories. Oh, I mean, there's a million of them, right? So they often manifest in some version of imposter syndrome, not believing in yourself or thinking that you're fake or a phony, just unsure of what to do. Like, what is the move I should make? Where should I put my time and attention? Should I write that novel that I want to? Should I create a podcast? Should I do TikTok? What should I do? And that's also associated with shiny object syndrome, where each new thing that comes out, each new gadget, new tech tool, new trend, you want to hop on. And so what do? You bounce back and forth from thing to thing to thing to thing and never get grounded, never have a foundation so that you can build upon your story, your narrative that is the through line from with any content that you create. You don't do that because you're bouncing all around and you're trying to do what? The next thing it creates, copy and compare yourself to others in your field. Well, wait a minute. This documentary filmmaker is doing this out there. Maybe I should be doing it that way. Or this creator is doing that. This writer is doing another thing. And we see someone else and we get competitive because all those voices in our heads start talking to us that we can't do it. And we see them having success. So we think, oh, I need to do it like them. I need those that acronym of credentials after my name, right? I need that certification. I need that camera. I need that tool. I need that approach. I need that strategy, right? We start copying them because we think that is the way to be successful because they had success. And we don't realize that there's more than one way up the mountain. There's more than one way to be successful. Not only that, I would argue that everybody has their own way. Even if they're very similar paths to someone else, it is not the same path. When we start copying others by listening to those voices in our heads, by listening to the story that you tell yourself, creativity plummets. It evaporates. When you start comparing yourself to someone else, you start copying the moves they are making, and your creative genius that is within you, that resides within you, is diminished, is smothered, is squashed. That is not the path, my friends. That's not what we want to do. And this all comes from that self-talk, just that chatter that's going on in the back of your head that is a distraction. Let's talk about the difference between talk and communication. Talk is a means to an end, right? That is just one form. It's a means to an end. But with communication, the end is that it reaches a goal. The end is understanding, conveying. This is what communication is about. And so that's a subtle difference. But to me, it's everything because we want to cease the self-talk, which is just one manner of communication, and it's neglecting a major other player in communication, which is the listening. We need to understand that we are trying to communicate with ourselves. And if we do that, instead of being consumed with the self-talk, and instead, if we self-communicate, then you start to tap into yourself a little bit. Listening is what's missing when we operate under self-talk only. Listening to yourself, asking yourself questions constantly, consistently. Questions like, why do I feel that way? Why did that trigger me so much? Why do I feel that way? Where did that come from? And you start peeling back those layers of the onion to investigate that. And it takes time. There's not going to be a one-word answer to these questions. Why did I get so upset when they said that? Why do I feel like I need to be doing what this other person is doing? Is that what I should be doing? And there's not an easy answer. It takes time to answer that because you have to listen and you have to learn. You have to understand. You have to, wait for it now, communicate. You have to communicate with yourself. This is what we are looking for. This is the goal. What is the best or easiest or simplest strategy for me? Instead of, oh, they're doing that. I probably should be doing that. I better start doing that. Okay, I'm going to start doing that. And then you bounce to the next shiny object. Ask yourself instead, what makes sense for me? What is my frequency or consistency rate? Do I show up every day to do a video? Or is it once a week? Do I do long, dense, really thought out and high production value videos? Or I do spur of the moment stream of consciousness videos where I just go on a rant for 90 seconds and I post it. It takes all kinds. Any way can be successful because you are the thing. You are the bedrock. Your story is the foundation upon all this content and these stories sit atop. And if that is compromised, if there are cracks in that foundation, you're never going to be able to build something taller and higher on top of it. Is the metaphor working for you? I mean, I see it visually. I want you to as well. This should be custom created. Each strategy should be custom created. I was at an event just this week with Podfest and Triangle Content Creators, and there was an analogy used that I think works in this scenario. And what was being discussed was where to put your time and attention for a video podcast or audio, and focusing on the platforms that you can monetize first. Like that's the meat and potatoes. And then the other ones are good testing grounds. But the comparison, the analogy that Chris from Hodfest used was, he said, you know, when you walk into a mall and you've got this, you know, the brick and mortar stores that have a lease there and they're always there that you go and buy your things from. He's like, these other channels are like the kiosks in the mall where people are just like shouting at you as you pass by, right? That's not what we want to be. And in my opinion, in this example, I think that is the self-talk. That's the chatter. It's just noise. It's just noise. Like, yeah, it might fit once in a while. You might pass by the perfume kiosk and be like, yeah, you know what? I did need something like that, or Sunglass Hut or whatever. But 99 times out of 100, you just scoot on past because it's just noise. Well, that's what's going on inside your head. Instead, what do you need? You need a list. You need a grocery list of goals. You need to understand, why am I coming to the mall today? Why am I coming to the store today? So that you don't get distracted by that chatter. You have a plan. You have a goal. You have a list that you follow. When you want to change the story that you tell yourself and cut out this self-talk and go deeper into self-communication so that you can understand yourself better and deeper so that you can do better work and serve your audience better, the very first step is to understand that you are, in fact, telling yourself a story, that it is, in fact, self-talk, that it is, in fact, chatter in the back of your head that is just creating noise that is distracting you from going to Vans and getting your shoes for your 6-year-old, right? You're getting sidetracked by, the milkshake kiosk at the mall. Do they have those? I don't know. Mine has macarons. You have to understand that you're telling yourself that story. Once you do that, then you got to listen to yourself. What is the story that I'm telling myself? And then ask yourself, is that true? Could be. It absolutely could be. But why is that true? Where does it come from? Continue to ask yourself questions. All you have to do is ask yourself why. Keep asking yourself why. Well, I feel that way because I get mad when people, assume this. Why? Well, because yada, yada, yada. Once you start doing that, it will reveal the whole story that precedes you, or the point where you are in your life and your journey right now. And that is the way we understand how to go forward. If you're halfway up the mountain, understanding what the first half was like helps you understand what is possible for the second half. Ooh, I like that. I just came up with that. And then you have to set up your goals that are aligned with that new story that you are telling yourself. When you are communicating with yourself and you start to understand what you need and what you can do unlike anybody else on the planet, and where you need to be providing your time and money and resources and energy. Once you understand that, you have to outline that grocery list. What am I trying to accomplish? I saw a great video on TikTok just the other day that was a man teaching like middle schoolers. It was like an assembly at school, smaller group though. And there was basically, let's say, a 20-foot runway, we'll call it. And he laid out these pieces of 8x10, notebook paper, one every 2 or 3 feet. And he had the young boy on the other end he had him step on each piece all the way to him, 20 feet across the room. Very easy to do. And then he eliminated about half of those pieces of paper, and it was still fairly easy to do, a little bit more challenging. The kid kind of had to leap to the next one, which was like 5 feet away, and he did that 3 or 4 times, and he made it the length of 20 feet. And then the man giving the presentation removed all of the pieces of paper except the last one, which is where he stood, and the kid was 20 feet away on the other side. He said, okay, now try to do it. And of course, the kid was kind of stuck. He didn't know what to do. And the guy paused him right there. He's like, look, what I'm asking you to do is impossible, right? But you'll still try. You still want to get there. But that doesn't matter because it's impossible. You cannot do it. And he said, those other pieces of paper are your short-term goals. This one 20 feet away is your long-term goal. But you can't, just because you want to make it, doesn't mean it's going to happen. It's impossible for you to just want it and then just try to throw your body at it and jump 20 feet from standing still. He's like, so let's take, for example, what your goal is, which is, in this case, to make it to the league, to make it to the NFL or the NBA. He said, you can't just be sitting there and saying, I want to make it to the league, and then it just happened. You have to set these short-term goals. So the first piece of paper represented, I'm going to make my middle school team. The second piece of paper represented, I'm going to make my high school team and start. The third piece of paper, and you can see where we're going, is I'm going to, make my college team and become an all-star, become a great player that's known, yada, yada, yada. It's the same thing with your strategy once you understand your story. So let's be real. Let's keep it real. It doesn't matter for you to finally become aligned with that. And be like, oh, this is what, this is my story. Everything I've been telling myself is BS. This is actually my reality. This is actually my truth. This is actually my story. You then this is the final step. You then have to lay out those short-term goals. Okay, Rain, you want your podcast to be the most successful storytelling podcast on the planet? What's your plan for this year? Let's even take a shorter term. How do you have to show up today to ensure that to happen? Am I setting up a new website right now? Absolutely. Am I constantly finding new guests? Absolutely. Am I understanding and going to podcast events so I can understand better how to network, better how to market my podcast? Absolutely. It's the same thing. None of this matters without execution. I want to be very clear about that. But the problem that we're talking about today is people get hung up in trying to execute a story that they have been telling themselves, perhaps for their whole lives, that simply isn't true. And that is why you should not listen to self-talk, but instead you need to seek and try to self-communicate. Thanks for tuning in. Hope this helps. Let me know what you think about this perspective. It's been something I've been dwelling on for a while, and it really hit home for me when that light bulb went off. And I'd love to hear if that light bulb went off in your mind too. Otherwise, stay tuned for the next episode of the Storytelling Lab. We will be back with a guest next week, and I will see you then. Peace and love, everybody. My name is Rain Bennett. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed that episode, do us a favor and subscribe to the podcast. If you're already a subscriber and you're enjoying the show, give us a review and let us know the value that you've gotten from it. We love to hear from our listeners and learn about the benefits that they're getting from the show. That's what fuels us, and that's what fuels the show. And if you've already subscribed and you've already reviewed it and you think there's someone else that would benefit from listening to this show, please share it with them. The more we grow, the more we can help you grow, and that's what we're here to do. Join us next time on the Storytelling Lab. This podcast is a 6 Second Stories production. 6 Second Stories is a story coaching and consulting company that builds online education, in-person and virtual training, and digital products that help businesses master storytelling to find their ideal customers and market to them effectively. You can learn more at 6secondstories.com and purchase the book 6 Second Stories at Amazon, barnesandnoble.com, or rainbennett.com/6secondstories.